Acknowledgement of its role in the cross-border drug problem is being viewed as a step forward.
The question is, are they doing enough to reduce consumption? Are they doing enough to stop the trafficking of weapons?
The U.S. is giving Mexico more than $1 billion a year to help them fight the drug cartels. Washington hopes this will help turn down the temperature in its often heated relationship with an ambivalent neighbor. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.
German security officials say a man accused of killing 2 U.S. airmen on Wednesday has confessed to targeting Americans. But they say he does not appear to be a member of an organized group. The 2 men were killed and another 2 wounded when a gunman opened fire at Frankfurt Airport on a bus carrying U.S. servicemen. A 21-year-old suspect, identified as an ethnic Albanian man from Kosovo, is being held in a German prison. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE, has condemned Turkey for arresting 6 journalists over a suspected plot to overthrow the government. The arrests follow a 3-year investigation into an ultra-nationalist group. The OSCE says Turkish authorities are intimidating the journalists and wants their immediate release. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has defended Bradley Manning, the soldier accused of leaking thousands of classified US government documents. Assange says the US is using Manning as an example. Assange is appealing against his own extradition from Britain to Sweden over sex crime accusations. He also denied that WikiLeaks is anti-American.
The requirements given by some of those charges is that WikiLeaks is the enemy of the United States, that a publisher is the enemy of the United States. And nothing in our 4 years of publishing shows that that is in any way true. We publish from all countries who come to us. We are not an enemy of the United States, and it is an abuse against Mr. Manning and an abuse against us to suggest otherwise.
Rescuers in New Zealand have pulled the last 2 bodies from the rubble of a building in last week's earthquake, raising the official death toll to 163. Prime Minister John Key visited the quake-stricken city of Christchurch on Friday. He was confronted by residents who wanted faster help. Officials declared the search and rescue operation over on Thursday, saying there was no hope of finding anyone else alive. Now, Indonesia is recognized as having one of the more open societies in Southeast Asia, just 13 years after mass protests helped bring down President Suharto. He'd ruled for 32 years with the backing of the military. Analysts say Indonesia made a success of its revolution by reaching out to all groups, including Islamists. Step Vassen reports.
Democracy, Indonesian style. Protest every day, like this one, against corruption. Still rampant, despite the revolution 13 years ago. Fahri Hamza was one of the students who led the protest against Suharto in 1998. Indonesia became the world's 3rd largest democracy, and the former activist became part of it as a member of parliament for Indonesia's most prominent Islamic party, the Prosperous Justice Party, affiliated with Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood. The party abandoning its call for an Islamic state and Sharia law.
The Islamic Brotherhood should not keep fighting the government, but it should help build the country, and it should make itself electable to the people.
Now the Prosperous Justice Party is a modern party, with hip-hop at the National Congress and 4 ministers in the government. It's one of the keys to the Indonesian success story. This ally of brotherhood in Egypt has joined the democratic process. Indonesia is proud to be an example where Islam and democracy go hand in hand. But recent religious violence shows that even after escaping dictatorship, democracy will still stay a serious work in progress that needs decisive leadership. The recent murder of 3 members of Ahmadiyya shocked many Indonesians who felt their country was going back to the dark days of 1998. But despite these serious setbacks, Indonesia has changed for good, says the man who led the revolt against Suharto.
Yeah, of course there are still many homeworks which we have to overcome. But at least we enjoy freedom of the press, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion.
Indonesians are watching closely the developments in the Arab world. They know exactly how it felt to fight for that one thing they never had and will now never let go: freedom. Step Vassen, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
Now, doctors in Britain have brought a stillborn baby girl back to life by freezing her brain. Ella Claxton was starved of oxygen at birth, but the extraordinary treatment has given her a second chance at a healthy life. Paul Brennan explains.
9-month-old Ella Claxton plays happily with her mother with no visible ill effects from what was a traumatic birth. Her mother's placenta had ruptured. It took doctors 25 minutes to get Ella's heart beating. And even then, it looked like the baby would be left brain damaged. Ella, they decided, would have to go to a specialist unit 50 kilometres away in Cambridge.
I didn't know what was going to happen, and they explained about this cooling treatment, that they were going to wrap her up and she was going to be cold for 72 hours, and we didn't know what the outcomes were going to be, but it was a matter of taking time by time, bit by bit.
Ella's body temperature was cooled from 37 degrees to just 33.5 degrees. After 72 hours, her temperature was carefully brought back to normal. The brain damage, which would have been inevitable, had been prevented. The technique was finally passed as safe by the UK's clinical watchdog in May last year, after years of dedicated research by this man and his colleagues at Imperial College London.
About 20 years of experimental studies led on to the clinical trials, which completed in about 2007. And since then, cooling has been introduced widely. Over 1,700 babies have benefited from cooling in the United Kingdom. And the chances of of surviving without any brain injury have been increased by about 50% with this treatment.
And the news is spreading rapidly. The work pioneered by the researchers here at Imperial College's Medical Sciences Centre involved cases from the UK, Hungary, Sweden, Finland and even Israel. But the benefits are now being felt worldwide, as far afield as America and Australia. Inevitably, more research is always needed. The UK remains the only country with a national register of babies treated this way. Keeping track of the future development of children like Ella Claxton will be crucial in further understanding the brain's ability to heal. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, London.
Now, Rupert Murdoch's media empire looks set to grow after the British government approved News Corporation's $20 billion takeover of satellite broadcaster B-Sky B. News Corp already owns 39% of the business and 4 newspapers in the UK. Other media organisations say the deal could hamper competition. The deal remains subject to an industry review. And in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro's revellers are adding the finishing touches to the annual carnival. Samba divas, burly police officers and newly elected President Dilma Rousseff will be among the costumes adorning the streets this season. The party gets into full swing when the mayor of the city's key to King Momo. This is Al Jazeera. These are the stories making headlines. Rebel forces in eastern Libya are regrouping after airstrikes on Thursday failed to loosen their control of a key oil terminal at Brega. But the Reuters news agency is now reporting a new air attack on Friday. It's quoting witnesses who say a Libyan warplane dropped a bomb near a rebel-held base in the eastern town of AlJazeera. We're working to confirm those reports. Well, these pictures taken earlier in AlJazeera showed rebel reinforcements arriving and arming themselves. Witnesses say hundreds have gathered there in recent days from across the east of the country. One of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi's sons says Thursday's airstrikes near Brega were meant to scare rebels away, not kill them. But it didn't work. Anti-government forces remain in the area.